Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth definitely matters. You can find us on the radio at icradio.media. We're a Fox News affiliate. You can find us on television, syndicated on Abundant Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. You can also find us on the Newscaster Studio. I'm so proud of this podcast. Murray Edwards is with us right now, and he's like the guy when it comes to the Newscaster Studio. And he's a guy for everything else. This is one of my sources for information. And when something just bugs me about something that's happening in today's world, especially the political world, I head up on Murray. Murray, I need answers. So, because you are the one person in the wilderness who has a calm spirit, and we need that right now.
Well, it's, Don, I appreciate you having me on the show. I always enjoy it. And, as I said earlier, hope I don't irritate too many people, but, sometimes it's, as you said, sometimes it's good to irritate people. So I always welcome our time we get to spend together.
I do too. And sometimes we need to get the blood boiling, so yes, we can go to the next level and not be so complacent as to what's happening in today's world. But before we get started, let's talk about the Newscaster Studio. You guys are growing like gangbusters, and lots of fabulous talk show hosts are associated with you guys.
We've come a long way. We've got, I think, 45 or 50, I think, podcasters now that are doing regular podcasts. And then we've got arrangements with like-minded news agencies or news outlets to allow us to republish their articles. And we have some that just do a part-time podcast. They're not doing anything on a regular basis like you do or like I do. They occasionally do one, and we have permission to republish that. So it's come a long way. We continue to grow. It's been fascinating for me. Excuse me, folks. I'm just a little under the weather today, so if I cough, please accept my apologies. To how quickly the organization has been accepted, and we are a voice, maybe in the wilderness, that you can hear things that you won't hear anywhere else. And our folks are just level-headed and just talk the facts and the truth. And we just try to let people know what's going on. There's so few places where you can get that now. And that was the goal all along, was to provide a platform for local, regional, national players who know stuff, excuse me, but they've been censored, or their voice has been sort of cut back a little bit, and we don't do that. So it's a wonderful thing.
I'm sure sometimes you'd love to censor mine. Just tweak it a little bit.
To date, I've not had to censor anybody, and to date, the way we operate and we push our information out, no social media platform has censored us. But in the manner in which we do it, excuse me, someone have a little bit of a problem, because it's the headlines and whatnot are subtle enough to let the people know what the conversation is going to be about, but it's not abusive enough to where a red flag would go off in one of the platforms and say, what is this person? No, we're going to shut them down. So to date, we have not had any kind of issues where we push our information out to.
Something, when you are a conservative talk show, sometimes you wonder, are people listening? Are they out there? But I think we draw more attention than the liberal media does, because they're a dime a dozen. I mean, it's almost like they got the same book. They have the same. They're looking at all the same stuff. I mean, because if you listen to one, you listen to them all.
Well, it sounds, a lot of times I feel like they have their marching orders. They've been told what you're supposed to talk about, what kind of propaganda you're supposed to put out there. I mean, all you've got to do is look at the mainstream media, CBS, NBC, ABC, all those guys, New York Times, the Washington Post. Take a look at their headlines. They're almost always the same thing. And what they tend to do is take something that a conservative might say and cut it into snippets, reshape it, then put it out, and that lets the political politicians or elites or minions or whatever words you want to use to put that garbage out there. And it is garbage, folks. It's most of the stuff that they put out there is, once you fact check it, you'll find that they've taken a snippet here and a snippet there and tried to blend it together and make someone that they're trying to embarrass. That's what they're doing. And the social elites or media minions or whatnot just take it and run with it. And when you try to hold them accountable, they look at you like, gosh, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. But when you lay the facts out there, I will say on X, and I'm on X a little bit more than I care to be, but it's mainly because one of these paid surrogates have put some kind of piece of garbage out there. And there are conservatives now that are going in and debunking what they're saying. So that's one reason they're upset at Elon, is because he's now allowing a two-way conversation that up until then, you couldn't do it. I mean, they would just rain on you like a thunderstorm. And now they're getting rained on because some of the stuff that they're talking about is just absolutely non-factual, can't be proven. It's just propaganda.
Let's talk about the presidential debate. So what a lot of folks, the only thing they're really listening to was what Trump said about dogs and cats. But I'll just have to tell you something. In Alabama, and you and I are in Alabama, we're noticing a radical change in our little neck of the woods. It is different than it was. My grandparents lived in this town right here an entire lifetime. And things that are happening now are so beyond what would have been the normal lifestyle. But when you start gathering folks in who are from undeveloped countries, and they have their rituals, and everybody's okay with them doing this, Trump was right about that. He was absolutely right about it.
Yes, ma'am. And the problem, we may not be having it to the extent that they're having in other countries, other states, I should say, but we are having those problems. Busloads of immigrants are showing up in towns, not necessarily in the major metropolitan areas. They're showing up in the rural towns. And that the bus will pull up, people will get off with duffel bags, a van will come pick them up, and then they go find them a home or they go find them a job. It's happening. One of the hot spots right now is Sylacauga, Alabama. The city council was asked a question about it, and they shut it down. They shut the city council meeting down because the concerned citizen was asking questions about it. It's happening in Athens, Albertville, Boaz, Montgomery, up in the northern tier of the state, the Tri-City areas. One person I know that happens to work in one of the hospitals up there, they admitted 3 individuals from foreign entities that had tuberculosis. So who's paying the bills for that? Well, folks, that's Medicaid. And guess what? That's coming out of your back pocket because that's who's paying for it. And how are they getting here? Hopefully you've heard the term NGO, non-governmental organization. And what they do is get funds from federal groups to take these people in and house them and feed them and take care of them. But instead of the citizens that might actually need a little bit of help, they're getting the help. And that's just not right. There will be a town hall in Sylacauga on the 25th of September. We've got several representatives coming, a couple of senators coming, and we're going to talk about those issues because right now Sylacauga seems to be the hot point for it, but it is occurring throughout the state.
Oh, yeah. Even in my little hometown, we're watching it spread. I think about going down 75, Highway 75, and going into our little town from Albertville and into Boaz because they're running out of room, but they're hoping the citizens are not noticing things, which I do. I'm always aware of what's around me. And so the same thing happened at a city council meeting in Albertville. And this is what they're doing. Some of the city council members were saying, well, Jesus says to love everyone. And he does say to love everyone. But you're also supposed to take care of where you live in your area.
You would think, our candidate, DJT, Donald Trump, says, it's America first. Well, you'd think, from an Alabama standpoint, it'd be Alabamians first. And, the disturbing thing is what we're trying to find out is, does our executive level people down in Montgomery, they've claimed they were unaware of it, that they did not know it was going on.
I'm not buying that.
I've actually talked to several representatives and senators across the state. They indicate that they were not aware that it was occurring. Now, could it be, the more rural areas are being hit, but the citizens aren't waking up until we get to a point we are now, where it's definitely taking jobs away, because it seems like it's more of the farmland area, the poultry industry, where they're looking for cheap labor, and they're bringing these people in, and they're using, for folks need to understand, they're using a package called the Custom Border Patrol 1, CBP-1 app. And these individuals from Venezuela, Haiti, Colombia, Cuba, now Mexico, can fill out this app, and they can automatically be brought into the country. And then once they get here, they bust them and fly them all over the place. So nobody knows. As of last month, I believe it was 350 some odd thousand folks who had been brought into this country using this particular process. And they shut it down for a while because of it being corrupt. They found one individual who had sponsored over 6,000 immigrants. They found a couple of situations where there were sponsors that were dead that were bringing in, these folks from different countries. And I'm all for a helping hand, but this is not a helping hand. This has turned out into a true, complete handout, and it's going to stay that way. And it's going to affect the housing markets in these towns where these people are landing. I don't know whether they're going to put 10 farms up or 10 cities up, but some of these towns are being selected because they've got a few more homes or apartment complexes or a hotel that's not being filled up. So these NGOs, and unfortunately, some of them are religious organizations that are getting these funds. And we know in the Sylacauga area, they've been coming in for at least 60 to 90 days. And we know there's a religious organization that is an NGO that has been bringing them in. So how does the city council not know? How does the county commission not know? How does the executive level in Montgomery not know? It seems baffling to me that they know to a certain extent, but apparently they do not want the citizens of their area to know that it is going on, because they know it's going to cause a ruckus.
All you have to do is open your eyes.
Yep.
And you can notice first of all, Geraldine, Alabama. Okay, we're not a resort area. I can go to Guntersville, and beautiful water out there. Mm-hmm. We've got the river, we've got all this, and even in Scottsboro, I can see how people would live in a camper there. I mean, I could see where you would actually buy a little spot of land right there on the river, and have a camper to go to on the weekends to get away from it all. I'm not seeing why in my area you would live in a camper on Highway 75. Mm-hmm. I'm not seeing that.
Well, across the lakes, I live on a lake. We have little, I guess you want to call mini cities, where somebody builds a campground, and instead of buying an expensive house to live on the lake, they put a camper up there.
Yes,
and there's several of them. I talked to a group up in North Alabama last year, and it was in the middle of a campground. They had a restaurant, they had a little grocery store there. People had their motorhomes and campers and whatnot, and they came and listened to what I had to talk about, and I thought it was truly amazing. That it was a little bitty city, sitting on one of the little lakes up in North Alabama. I said, this is neat. But you're absolutely right. When all of a sudden tents start popping up all over the place, and there's one other issue that folks may not be aware of, how this is going to affect or potentially could affect the small business community. Because if one of these individuals commits a crime on property that is owned by a small business owner, that small business owner can be held accountable. If they're shut down for a few days, there's no way for them to file and reclaim the money they lost.
They'll never recoup it.
Shut down. If an individual that works for that company is injured, then workman's comp has to pay for it. And that comes out of the back pocket of the business owner. It does not come out of the back pocket of the worker. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of other problems going on. I know there was a situation in the Clanton area where somebody stopped to get gas, and a immigrant was either drunk or high on drugs and was trying to get into the service station. The manager had to lock the door and not let that individual in. A couple of half mile down the road in the parking lot of a Waffle House, there were two young ladies that were being, acting as prostitutes right there in the parking lot of the Waffle House. So there's certain things that a small business owner needs to be aware of. Put a sign up saying, business only. If you're not here to do business, you're not welcome, on our property, because they can be held accountable for what basically what any individual happens to do on their property. But now that we're having such an influx of people who really shouldn't be here, and we know some of the history, not all of them, but some of them have caused all kinds of problems. And so folks need to be aware that if you're a small business owner, you need to be perfectly aware that if they commit a crime on your property, guess what? You're going to be held accountable for it. And if they shut you down for a crime, you can't get that money back from your insurance company. That's not classified a business loss, not like shoplifting or something like that. Mm-hmm. So they shut down for 2 or 3 days. Whatever kind of revenue they would make for those 2 or 3 days, it's gone. They can't make it up.
If it's shoplifting, let's say all they do is shoplift, your insurance rates are going to grow up every single time.
Oh, absolutely.
You have to use that. So it is costing you more.
Absolutely. So people need to be aware of that.
Well, on our farm a few months ago, Phil and I, we're farmers, and I love growing my own organic foods. Mm-hmm. And so we have this pretty big strawberry patch. And so I told Phil on the 38 acres, I said, let's go ahead and get some straw from the pine trees. Let's go ahead and do that and put that over, because it's just a great way to grow strawberry, because they need moisture and all that kind of stuff. So we went out there across the pond. And so I looked, it's kind of a little cove goes down past the pond. And I looked and I saw something that didn't look right out there. There were buckets, there were cleanser bottles, there were little things like that the cows are probably not going to put out there.
You wouldn't think so.
So I called the police department, our local police department, kind of rained on my little parade right there. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, what does that look like to you? I said, and he acted like he didn't want to say. And I said, well, it looks to me like, something going on here. So I called a friend of mine who's a security specialist. Mm-hmm. I took pictures and sent those to him. And he said, oh, where's that at? That looks like a shake and bake. Mm. And I didn't even know what a shake and bake was. I'm that naive. I said, what are you talking about? And he said, that's a shake and bake. Somebody's making drugs wherever that is. I said, Rick, it's on our land. And he said, you better call the cops on that. And I said, well, I did, but it's kind of shaking it off there as if it's nothing. So I went on ahead and called the sheriff's department. And Nick Weldon, awesome guy, immediately started working on it. Mm-hmm. And so that evidence is being sent now to Jacksonville, to the lab out there, because that's going to take forever before something's done about that. Sure. My point is I just, I can't shut my eyes and be like a zombie and act like it's not happening here. It is. Oh,
yeah. I mean, all you got to do is go into some of the big box stores. Now, I I do not. I can't stand to walk into Walmart or Target or any of those stores. I don't go, but I know of people who the stores themselves are just inundated with foreigners. And I know someone who drives a school bus. And I was talking to them, and I said, "How many on your school bus are non-speaking English people?" She said, "About 3/4 of the bus are young men and children, young men, young women who can't speak English." And then you get into how's that affecting the schools, because these kids are going into schools. How many teachers in a school, especially maybe a country school, how can they speak Spanish? Can they speak Haitian? Can they speak anything other than our good old Southern Alabama, language? So it's hurting the what they call the EEL, English Education Language Group, I think it's called, something along those lines. It's hurting schools across the state because they're getting inundated with young kids who can't speak English. So once again, that affects the educational level, and we all know the educational level in Alabama is not the best in the world. We're like 45th in the country, yet we continue to throw billions and billions and billions of dollars at it, and we never get any better. Well, there's another cause for it right now, and it's not necessarily the teacher's fault. It's the administration and the superintendents and the school board here in the state that they're not taking, what they need to do to take this stuff seriously. So it's going to hurt the kids.
Well, it's slowing down it's slowing down kids who are going to school for the right reasons and speak English. Right, it slows that learning process down. I mean, it's just common sense. That's what's happening.
Absolutely. And when you've got, kids that are trying to strive to do better, mm-hmm. I mean, you've got the average student, he or she's there, they're doing whatever they can to get through school, but you've got those young men and women who are really striving to make good grades, so maybe they can get a partial scholarship if they so desire to go to college or something like that. They're being held back because of it, because they're not going to take those kids, those high achievers, out and move them to a room, where a teacher can sit there and say, well, we're going to get into advanced math, or we're going to get into this, we're going to get into that. That's not occurring. They're being thrown right into the population that is, you sit there and go, well, why in the world should I be working my what off to make good grades when I can't even understand half the kids that are in my classroom?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And they're saying all the breaks. And before anybody starts something with me, my daughter-in-law is from Russia. She was brought here when she was 11 years old. Mm-hmm. She is an American citizen and is very, very proud to be an American citizen. No one gets more upset about this situation than she does. I'm just telling you.
Anybody who has gone through the process the proper way, you come in, you take your courses, you learn the Constitution, you take an oath of office. I mean, not oath of office, but the oath of the land. Mm-hmm. You have to go back to the country sometimes that you came from for a period of time. It costs money. It's not a cheap thing to do it the right way. They're all upset because when you have 8, 9, 10 million people who are just walking across a border, whether it's the northern border or the southern border, that's a problem. I would, if I had gone through that process, I would be very upset. And I can see why the Spanish, the groups that have done what they're supposed to do to be here. America's a country that welcomes people with open arms, but you got to do it the right way. And all these people who say, well, we're being mean when we don't let them in. It's not that we don't want them to come in. We just want them to come in the way they're supposed to come in. We can't handle 10 million extra bodies in this country, 16 million, 2 million gotaways that aren't even added to that, 350 some odd thousand kids that this administration can't even figure out where they are. That's just shameful. That's just truly shameful.
Mhm. It absolutely is. I have an issue with folks who have served in the military who can't get help from the government, but yet someone who's here illegally, and it looks as if they're not here for the right reason to me. It's like a lot of warriors to me. But anyway, that's my opinion. But
well, there's been 300, Donna, there's been, I believe the last stats I saw, nearly 300,000 individuals who have been on the terror watch list that have tried to get into the country. Now, how many did they stop? How many of those are part of those millions of gotaways? You know, those are the ones that just come across the border and just vaporize into the land someplace. You're right. When they're using Medicaid benefits to take care of people who aren't here, they're using educational dollars to educate people who aren't here the way they're supposed to be. Too many folks just don't grasp that. And the report came out this morning. Our interest on our national debt is just topped $1 trillion.
Wow.
Think about that. Interest on our national debt, which is about 35,
that's
36.
The fall of an empire.
Yes, ma'am.
That is the fall of a country empire. That's what happened to Rome. So I want to ask you another question, then we have to go into a break. Okay, this pertains to Kamala Harris and her idea of giving $250,000 to people who come here the wrong way. Okay, there are American citizens, there are couples who would like to get married. They're putting it off because they can't afford a home. Is that not a slap to those American citizens who would love to get married and they're not going to because they have to wait? They got to live in the basement of the parents' house until they can afford a home.
You know, her policies, and you have to go back. She comes from California. Her background is extremely liberal, progressive, basically almost Marxist. Her father is a Marxist. You put out a book on the economy, but the things that she's proposing to just give folks $225,000 down payment on a home, $50,000, and I'm sure most businesses would love a $50,000 tax credit to start their business up. However, it's got to come from somewhere. And the only place it's going to come from is the American taxpayers. And they already have enough on them. They can't pay their power bills. They can't pay their groceries. I mean, my power, I have a small home, and my power bill was out of the 7-Eleven world for a house that's only 1,600 square feet. That the only thing that stays on is the air conditioner. And I like what Alabama Power says. Do you want to reduce your power bill? Raise your thermostat to 78. That's their advice. I got my power bill the other day, and I called and I said, you know, I have a small house compared to, you know, most of them. I have another home down in Autauga County that's 1,000 square feet bigger than this one. Now it's on Central Alabama Power, and I'm on Alabama Power. And I finally get this young lady. She was nice. I mean, she was pleasant. And I said, look, how can my house have a power bill that's $340 some odd for 1,500 square feet? Well, you need to turn your thermostat up. And I said, what do you mean my thermostat up? You turn it to 78 and your power bill will go down. I said, do you realize how hot it is in the state of Alabama in July, August, and September? 78's a bit much as far as I'm concerned. 71, 72 is one thing, but 78, that's a little different situation. But it is what it is.
Well, I would be fine because I'm cold-natured, but now Phil would die of a stroke. I mean, we have to keep it cold. I just wear jackets so I can stay warm. But anyway, let's go ahead and cut into a commercial break, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. Man, time flies, and I'm talking to you, Murray. We'll be right back. Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant. At Liberty Bank, we're all about community, whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need. Toys at Christmas or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning 1 p.m. Central. You know, I mentioned all the different ways you can find us. You can find us on the Newscasters Studio. That's the newscasters.com. You can also find us on social media sites until they kick me off. I've been getting warnings, but, you know, I kind of thought I was this little fish in the big ocean. I'm beginning to wonder if maybe I'm a little bit bigger than I think I am. It's just like it's a constant thing. It's over and over again for speaking the truth. And I'm so glad that you can go to the Newscaster Studio and you don't have to worry about that.
That's a true statement.
Thank you for making that happen, Murray Edwards.
I appreciate that.
You and the rest of the team out there.
We're working hard.
Well, I mean, it's easy. It's easy. And let me tell you this. I know you're growing, and I really believe the reason you guys are growing, this whole team is growing, is because people are looking for the truth. They're tired of the same old bull that's being spewed out there by the liberal media. We're just tired of it. And people are looking for the truth, even if it's hard to swallow sometimes. It's the truth.
I just did a show with a J6 person who's been in prison now for 1,300 and some odd days because of January 6th. And they've moved him around. So he and I were supposed to speak personally, but what the government did is basically shut him down. So I had to spend time with his media liaison. And it was stunning, the kind of things that they are putting some of the J6ers through. It will just bring you to tears with what they're doing. And they've had this young man in jail now for, like I said, a little over 1,300 days on 2 misdemeanors. 2 misdemeanors. They won't give him bond on 2 misdemeanors. And he's not the only one who's been caught up in it. But it's when you can talk about those kind of things and not get shut down. I was stunned at the number of responses that we got back once that show went up and went live. People had not heard that, and that's an important thing. Now he's been shut down. His where he's trying to put stuff out has been shut down, but we're able to take it and turn it and spin it just a little bit to where we can get the word out to a lot of people, and we do it on a lot of different topics. I mean, you name it, we have people who are talking about just about everything, and that's a good thing.
Let's talk about the second assassination attempt on President Trump. It seems a little odd to me. And you shared some information, and then I follow your post, of course, on Facebook as well. This was not really a planned event. How do you, in your opinion, how did this happen?
I don't know. This one is even stranger than the first one that occurred like 60 days ago. Here you got a guy who supposedly lives in Hawaii. Now, he is a native of North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. And he's been in Hawaii now for quite a few years. The event that Trump attended, he was having a meeting there at his golf course, and they decided they were going to go out and play golf. Was not on his agenda, was not on any public record, but this guy shows up, and he knows exactly where to go. And when you go back and look at his history, he's had over 100 run-ins already with police. He's done some stuff for the Ukraine. He's been to Taiwan. He's trying to get our people to come fight in Ukraine. And you sit there and go, this guy's got ties somewhere. Now, where are these ties? Because he's not working. He indicates he had a business in North Carolina that I guess he's closed down. So where in the world is he getting his money from? Who's funding him? How did he get from Hawaii to Trump's golf course in South Florida? And apparently when they arrested him, he was nonchalant about it. And I just was watching the report on when he went to court this morning. He was apparently laughing it up with his attorney. So either he's a little touched in the you-know-what, or he just doesn't care about it. But, this one's got weird spins to it. You almost have to think there and go, there's got to be somebody somewhere who fed him some information. And I hate the thought of that there's somebody inside his inner circle there that pass this information along. Say, oh, by the way, Trump's going to be playing golf and he's teeing off at 8 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock in the morning. And that way he could schedule the amount of time he needed to get there and do what he has to go do. But this one does. I agree with you, Donna. This one's sort of weird.
Could it be some type of surveillance? Because everybody who's going to sell you, Donna, you got a private call on your cell phone. Mm-hmm. We all know that's malarkey, because I can be thinking about taking a trip to Hawaii myself. All of a sudden, I'm going to start seeing advertisement.
Yeah, it's happened to me many times, and you sit there and go, okay, stop listening to me.
I would think President Trump has something that would be much more secure than what I have.
I would think so.
Now, I do know this from being in the cell phone business for many years. I do know this. Someone can figure it out. That's why they're constantly having to do updates over and over and over again. It's probably something in a garage somewhere. But anyway, they can figure it out. Because I remember when we went from analog to digital, so much more secure. And it was for a little while until people started figuring it out. And then you had to constantly have updates on your phones. So could it be that? Could it just be, I'm just saying, okay, they tried to get rid of Trump through the judicial system. Apparently that's not working.
No.
Okay, they're trying to get rid of him. He knows too many things, deep state. This guy got it. And not just with Democrats, but with some Republicans as well.
Sure.
So I'm not exactly a card-toting Republican either.
Yep.
So more so than Democrat. I would never vote Democrat. However, there are too many ways they have tried to shut this guy down, and I'd like to call him Teflon Don, because every single thing they've done at him,
Just bounced right off.
I mean, he bounced right off of it with more money coming in. I mean, more support than ever. And I'm seeing more Facebook posts now where people are more bold about it. You know, there was a time people would say, well, I'm a Trumpster, but I'm just not going to put it up on my Facebook page.
Sure.
I'm seeing more and more posts now. I think all it's doing is energizing us even more.
Well, I think what you're doing is you're seeing a certain group of individuals who have been perceived as being victims of the same identical thing that he's going through right now. And they say, well, his words were, they're coming after me, but they're really after you.
It's
that
true.
Type of situation. I think that's starting to ring true with all these lawsuits and lawfare that's going against him. Chuck Schumer said, and believe me, I'm not a big fan of Chuck Schumer, but way back when Trump was in office the first time, Schumer made the comment, you don't want to make enemies of the deep state. They know ways. They'll find out. And there is a deep state. There's no two if and buts about it. The bureaucratic agencies, there's just way too many of them. And they have ultimate power. They have more power and more control than the legislative body does, because they're not elected. They can go decide, well, we want to put a regulation out for this, and they can do it. And so we see that happening. And then you got to go deeper into, the FBI, DOJ, all those groups. How many of these people have been there forever?
Mm-hmm.
Many have been there forever. They don't want their little world destroyed. And I think one of the biggest problems that Trump had when he was in the first time, he surrounded himself that first couple of years with Washington upper echelon people. Yeah. And I think once he found out what they were up to, he fired them and then brought some of his own people in. And that's when he really started to see some major changes going on, and they're panicked. They're truly panicked. They try to tie, they've been trying to tie this Project 2025 to him. He didn't write it. It was written by Heritage Action. Has about 100 different consultants that they used, a lot of different conservative organizations. But what 2025, that does go overboard on a few things. I will admit, I've read the 450 pages and the 400 and some odd pages of notes. So I'm one of the few morons who took the time to actually go through this idiotic thing. Mm-hmm. They do go overboard on a couple of things, but it's aimed at doing exactly what the founders wanted. Small government. The people should have more of a voice. Some of the things that the government does, they shouldn't be doing. The state should have the power to do those kind of things. And they are absolutely petrified by the possibility. Now, like I said, he wasn't part of it. Now, admittedly, a couple of members that were on his staff or one of his advisors did have some input into the document. But Heritage Action has put something out like this almost every election cycle. This is nothing new. It's just that, they're using that now as a talking point. They are petrified that if he should win, he knows where all the dirty work is. He knows who's done it. And I would think it would be a welcoming sight for the American people to see the federal government actually do what it's supposed to do, and it is to serve the people and not for their benefit. It's a crying shame, but they'll continue to tag him on there and, go for, I think he's got his own. I honestly haven't read through his agenda thoroughly to see what he's going to do, but he has no ties, and they continue to say he does. They continue to say he wants to be a dictator. I was listening to the conversation he was having about that word dictator, and he said, I might be a dictator for a day because it was, they can't take a joke. I mean, I'm going to start the wall back up. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that.
I guess I will be for one day.
Yeah, pretty much what he said. You know,
That's
the
something
blood.
we would say in jest.
Oh, the bloodbath statement had nothing. There's no. He never stated anything.
No.
And Donna, that's what's causing this hatred and this vitriol, because the left is saying, and they're calling people who on the right are conservative. He's a Hitler. He's this. Everybody who supports him is a Nazi, or from that standpoint, or he's a bigot. He's a white supremacist and all. But that's what's creating all this vitriol toward that man. And when you sit there and say he is the threat to democracy, no. First off, we're not a democracy, and you and I have talked about this many times. We are a constitutional republic, and if anybody destroyed the thought process of a democracy, is the Democrats did it 2 months ago.
See, that's your whole point right there. If Trump wanted that, he had 4 years to do it previously.
Absolutely, and there's nothing to my knowledge. I could have missed something. Nobody's perfect, but I can't think of anything that he did during his first 4 years that would lead anybody to believe he's going to change. He hasn't flip-flopped on anything like our current Democratic candidate, who has flipped and flopped and flopped and flipped back to her everything that she says she's going to do. And the people are buying. The people who support her are buying that. And it just blows my ever-loving mind to understand, how can you accept that? Because it's just unbelievable. But they are, because of like all the nonsense that they're throwing out there, Donna. There are people who want to be, let's use the term hero. If I take him out, I'm going to be a hero.
Mm-hmm. There are people who are sick.
I'm going to save the democracy because I'm going to try to take out Donald Trump.
Because they've been fed all this nonsense from the left. Okay, let me ask you a question. Sure. Okay, so there's a word Phil loves to use, okay? And I don't know if you've heard this word before. It's called womanese.
No, I don't guess I have.
Okay, all right. So men are from Mars, women are from Venus, right? There's stark differences, whether the left wants to admit that or not. There are men and there are women. Okay, so we think a little differently than y'all do.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So I was watching the debate. I'm thinking womanese. I'm thinking about, I'm watching Kamala Harris through this debate. You know what I was thinking? I wasn't even listening to her policies because I know what they are. It's a bunch of nonsense. I was watching her. I was watching her mannerisms. I was watching how she said things. I was just looking at her being just a nut. So this is what I'm thinking. There has to be people who are watching this who are thinking exactly what I'm thinking.
Oh, sure.
Okay. I'm thinking of all, okay, now every family has a nut in it. Okay, everybody has a family member who shows up at Christmas. Everybody has to watch what they say because this person is going to be offended. The person is a narcissist. Okay, you have to tiptoe around the tulips for this person. Then I'm also thinking of it. That's what she reminds me of. Then I'm also thinking about every man on planet Earth that has had a divorce has to have had an ex-wife like this woman. Do you want to?
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I mean, really, Phil has one. So is that how you want running your country? This narcissist is in your family who makes life a living hell for everybody at Christmas and at Thanksgiving. And also the ex-wife who makes it really rough. She talks bad about the dad to the kids. That kind of, is that who we want running this country? Or do we want to pay for it?
Yeah, I want a businessman, and I've worked with business owners for 30 some odd years. He's no different than most of them. They have a show front, and then they have a business mind that they use when they get behind closed doors. Every last one of them I ever worked with, when I was a business consultant, they would call me out in front of their sales team or their management team. But the minute we got behind closed doors, it was, okay, what do we got to do to fix the problem? And he's just the same way. Now he's maybe a little bit more gruff than some people would like for him to be, but he's just telling it like it is. And too many people these days want everything sugarcoated. They want, oh, let's make nice. No, we shouldn't say that. We shouldn't say this. He's just telling it pretty much like it is. I watched the debate later. I spent my time just for the purity fun of it, watching X. And oh my dear golly gee whiz, it was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And afterwards I said, okay, now I'll go watch the replay of the debate. And some of the things she said or didn't say, just blows your ever-loving mind. And I don't know whether there's any truth to it, but there was a report that came out now that the ABC anchors were both paid $1 million. Again, I don't know if there's any truth to this, folks. I'm just repeating what I read. But she was given all the questions. They were given $1 million apiece, and they gave her guarantees that she would get the easy questions. He would get the hard questions. They would not fact check her. They would fact check him. And I've seen that in several different publications. So there's got to be some semblance of the truth to it. Now, how much, I don't know. But I watched it, the second, like I said, a replay of it, and I'm going, boy, they just did ABC such a disservice. That was disgusting. And I tried to go in with an open mind, as I think most people try to. But that was the worst case of media bias I think I've ever seen with it. And he knew it was going to happen. It was 3 against 1. He knew it was going to occur. And some of the stuff that she said was just bold-faced lies. And
it was not like in divorce court, though.
No.
I mean, I don't know how many divorce, like half marriages now end in divorce. There has to be a lot of men who have noticed that. When they watched her during this debate, she had to remind them. I'm not saying every woman. I've been divorced too, but my ex and I actually went to the same judge. We went to the same attorney. Mm-hmm. It cost us $300 a piece. We had been separated for over a year. He kept his stuff in his house. I kept my stuff in my house. We did not put our child in the middle of it. We did not, because
you did what I did when I got divorced from my first wife. We did the same identical thing. Both sat on one side of the table. She sat on the other side of the table, and we both used the same attorney. Yep. and so it's come a long way.
But most marriages are not like that. No. Most of them, there's a big divorce court. And I'm just telling you, I don't say this proudly. 9 times out of the 10, the woman's going to win.
Oh, yeah. Well, see, I was fortunate. When I got divorced, we had 3 children. My youngest was not even hardly a year old yet. I got them. So when I'm talking about in the 80s, when a man to get custody of his kids in the 80s, that's stunning, So there are exceptions to the rule, but she's just something else. I mean, she flipped on something the other day, then she flopped back to the flip of the program. I think it was paying for transitional surgeries. I believe it was for men in prisons who decided they wanted to be women.
Okay. Why the heck? Why would our tax money go on that?
Well, she's flipped on that one a couple of times. Oh, no, I didn't say it. Then then it was proven to her that she did say it. Then she backed off on it. And then she came back, I think, the other day and says, well, they do need some kind of medical care. And I'm going, you also want to do it for illegal immigrants. So that's why they're all flocking to California, because they can get free sex change operations if they so desire on the taxpayer dollars in California. So I know they're real thrilled about Gavin Newsom with some of the stuff he's put out. Of course, she's driven some of that too when she was the attorney general. So it is what it is.
A lot of prominent Democrats are going against her.
Yeah.
Judge Joe Brown. I
saw his interview. Woo! He tore her up in his interview.
And that surprised me. It really did.
So there's some out there that understand that maybe they're old school Democrat, the old Dixiecrats that we used to have here in the state of Alabama, where they were somewhat moderate in their thought processes. I mean, yeah, they were hardcore on some things, but they're so far and few now. I mean, we just saw the professor Derkowitz just denounced his Democratic affiliation, and they just ripped him a new one because he basically worked for Trump during his first impeachment hearing, and they just have been land-based him for years. So you've got some guys who have been long-standing Democrats who said this is not the Democratic Party anymore. This is a left-leaning, progressive, Marxist type, and those are harsh words. It really are harsh words. But when you take a look at what they're saying and what they're trying to do, you can't express it any other way. So they don't care about the the everyday person. They care about groups. And as long as those groups are in the standing that they'll get their votes, that's who they'll pull. That's what they'll go cater to.
There's a lot of flip-flopping going on because I'll have to tell you, I'm a little confused. Okay, so it's okay for you to have the sign up that says I'm with her. You can have that, but I thought we're not supposed to use her. I thought that men and women were all the same.
That's a good one. Ways. I mean, when you got a Supreme Court justice, when she was being questioned and was, what is a woman? She says, well, I'm not a doctor, so I can't express what a woman is. Yeah, you can. It's not hard to determine what's a woman and what's a man. Now, I will admit, and I hate to admit this, I was out the other day and I saw an individual that to this day, I didn't talk to him. I didn't ask him a question. I could not tell whether that individual was a man or a woman.
Okay.
And normally there's something that you can see says, okay, that's a guy wanting to be this, or this is a girl wanting to be that. I got
an easy way for you to figure it out. So Phil and I were on a trip. We went to this hotel. I kind of suspected that was really a dude back there. I know the false eyelashes and the makeup. It actually looked pretty. I mean, could be a girl. And so I mentioned that to Phil. I said, I think that was a dude. And Phil said, I look like a chick to me. And so I said, let's wait several hours. Okay. And then I want to go back to the front desk. We're going to see if this dude has 5 o'clock.
Shadow.
And he did. So if you'll just wait a little bit, the beard will grow.
I mean, honestly, this individual was just a plain person. Happened to be sitting in a chair at a place I was at. And I'm looking, and honest to gosh, I could not tell. They didn't open their mouth. They didn't say a word. A little overweight. But I honestly couldn't tell. They had traits of a man. They had traits of a woman a little bit, but I honestly couldn't. First time in my life, I think I've actually been dumbfounded looking at someone and say, I really don't know what that individual is. Not that it really matters, but still, all in all, going, whoa, okay, we've come a long way since I was growing up.
You remember the cigarette commercials? We've come a long way, baby.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We're going backwards. The women are losing their rights because of these idiots who are in the Democrat Party. We're going to have to call it a go.
Gee whiz, again.
An hour already just gone. Murray, we need to start reserving 2 hours.
Oh, goodness.
2 hours just not getting it.
Yes,
we're going to have more time. Murray, thank you so much for being with me today.
Enjoyed it as always.
And thank you for everything you're doing with Newscaster Studio. It's such a bright light in a dark world.
Appreciate that, Donna.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for watching. Without you, we wouldn't have a show. And thank you so much for the emails you're sending. Continue sending emails. It makes my day. Donna@donnasedge.com is where you can send it. Donna@donnasedge.com. Again, Murray, thank you so much. I'm honored.
Enjoyed it.
Hope you guys have a great rest of the day.